Hello, hello, hello. Chimipsua or Susday. That's how we say it in Cambodia. Oops. Let me turn them. There we go. About that. All right. So, Andy, did you disappear? Are you still around? Oh, that was at 9 o'clock that you made that message. And I noticed that because I went over to YouTube to leave a couple of comments before coming in live. And it had your comment, Andy, like held for review. Like, what the heck? You know, if you want, let me know and like I'll make you a moderator because I trust you. And yeah, so I can see now in the StreamYard that comment was at 9:06 p.m. and poor Andy, like you wouldn't have seen it come up in the chat and like what's going on and maybe left, right? So anyway, that's what happened. And so DripDrop's video wrapped up. I've got lots of notes. And it's just showing one eyeball, and quite frankly, I think that's probably me over there because I have it open in YouTube. That way I can see if there are any oops, there you go. If there are any comments that get held like that again, then I can fix it. Or Andy, if you come back in and you want to be a moderator, so that if that happens to anybody else and you're around, you can fix it. Yep. So there's no sense in talking about this yet. So we have some people to have a conversation with. I don't know if you can hear Popeye. Hey, Popeye. Lucky lady. You good puppies? I already took them for a walk. Already gave them their treat. So they should be good to go. One cat's up here with me. The cats that are normally fighting, I put one in my room and closed the door. So there should be no cats trying to fight with each other. So that's good. But anyway, for anybody who doesn't know, there's a channel called Crime Circus, and there's a young man that goes by DripDrop that hosts this channel. And he's kind of interesting because he's got this like little turban thing on, and he's got this makeup with like spiders drawn on his cheeks, and then he's got like this fog effect thing going on, so he looks kind of like a fortune teller kind of thing. I mean, as in like the old boardwalks where they had that little machine with the fortune teller thing that would like print out a fortune for you if you put money in it. Kind of like, it reminds me of that. So he's been talking about the Idaho 4 case. I'm trying to think if I started watching him with this case or if he was talking about something else. And that's how I found him. But so he's been doing a little series on the suspect that's been arrested, Brian Kohberger. And this is tonight was number 6 of his little series. Like I said, I made lots of little notes here. I also watched that lady Banfield or whatever, she had a couple of videos come out today as well that were interesting. I didn't make notes on those, but maybe some people will have seen that. If you want to add that into the conversation, Harsh Reality had a new video today. Michelle After Dark, I think it's called, the one that walks her dogs. She had a video today. Justice AZ's been talking about it again every day. And I think there's a baby crying. You know how a baby crying sounds like a cat sometimes? Oh, goodness. So I had to think for a minute. Is that the cat upstairs? Did she get out of my room? But no, I think there's some people getting into a car across the street, and I think they might have a crying baby. So I'm excited to kind of talk. I'm not trying to enter the whole true crime scene or anything. It just seemed like that might, since I saw that he was doing his video premiere at 9:00, and that was kind of the time I was thinking about starting. I thought, okay, well, I'll start at 9:30 because his are usually less than 30 minutes. He did wrap it up just like about 35 minutes. And I had no idea what he would be talking about. So I thought, okay, well, why not make that the subject for tonight to start rambling? Ramble. Lord, I was born a rambling man, trying to make a living and doing the best I can. Da 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 da. Lord, I was born a rambling man. I always think about that with ramble. I think there was a song about Ramblin' Rose or something too. I'll check it out on Google. Ramblin' Rose. Popular torch song, 1962, written by the brothers Noel Sherman and Joe Sherman and popularized by Nat King Cole. Ramblin' Rose. Well, interesting. Learn something new every day. Dooby. Hello, one eyeball. Would you like to say hello in the chat so that I know you're here? For sure. It says one eyeball. 2 eyeballs. Yay! Maybe we can get this conversation started. Let's see. So, when Crime Circus started off talking about Brent Lee Kopaka. And I've seen pictures of him, like in his military photo. Didn't really keep up on exactly what was going on. And then earlier today, I was watching somebody that was talking about Brent and that there could be a possible connection. So when he started off with that, I thought, wow, is this synchronicity or what? And so Brent was living in Pullman, Washington, which is, 10, 15 minutes away from Moscow, Idaho. And he died on December 15th. The SWAT team came to his house and he was shot by the SWAT team. He was known to have had PTSD because he had combat overseas. I don't remember, Iraq, Afghanistan, exactly where, if he mentioned that or not. But something that was mentioned by DripDrop is that Brent served in the same unit with the lead detective and the lead detective's younger brother of the Moscow 4 case, or Idaho 4 case. I thought that was interesting. Now, one of the people in the comments said that it was the lead detective who had responded to the 911 call. Now, I don't know if that is, which one of those is right, or if it's the same thing. That one of the officers who responded to the 911 call also became the lead detective in the case. But so that's rather interesting. He mentioned a picture showing their house or his parents' house or something, that there was a white Hyundai Elantra and a white pickup truck, or a silver Elantra and a white pickup truck parked in the driveway. He then talked about the, what did you say video camera of Maddie and Kaylee walking home, or walking to the food truck, that a white truck passes by. But then in the comments, a lot of people were saying that one was a GMC and one was an F-250, and one had a toolbox in the back and one didn't. So they might be completely unrelated. Then he mentioned that Brent, before he died, had an odd post on social media. I didn't catch which form of social media it was. And it was all together one word, like, I see you too. And he spelled it EYE for I, and he spelled it, and then SEA for C, and then U, and two is also TOO. So YOUTOO. So that's interesting, if that means anything. Why did he make that post? Why did he spell the words like that? And who was he saying? Who was that post intended for? That he sees too? So that was just curious stuff. I mean, there was no real bombshells, of course. We know that he mentioned, as we know, that Brian applied to work at the Pullman PD. He mentioned the driving around with the visual snow, that a lot of people had raised questions. Well, if you have the visual snow so bad that you can't see Dylan standing in the doorway, then how could you drive? And he just said that a lot of people drive with impaired vision, and so you have to be safe on the roads, because you never know who's on the roads with you, how well they can see. Let's see. Brian, okay. And then someone was asking about Bethany. Was she there or not? He didn't want to say anything about Bethany. He just showed some pictures of her. I hadn't really seen a lot of pictures of Bethany a while ago. I had. I don't know why I was thinking she had brown hair, but I think only Xana had brown hair. So it's really strange. I think Banfield brought up the fact that maybe Bethany wasn't even there in that room. Is it possible that she wasn't even? Someone brought that up. Maybe she wasn't even in the house. Although the police do say she was on the first floor. But they also said Dylan was on the first floor when she wasn't. So Bethany lived in the house. Maybe Bethany was there when the 911 call was there. But even if she was there, the location of her room, she probably wouldn't have heard much if there weren't any loud, blood-curdling screams. which there probably wasn't, because that would have been picked up by that neighbor's, the neighbor's security camera did pick up other sounds. So if there had been a scream, it would have picked it up, right? So most likely there wasn't any kind of loud scream that would have woken Bethany up. So he proceeded to answer a lot of questions. Does DripDrop think that he had help or accomplices? He just basically said that probably not the father, because somebody might have mentioned the father. The father wasn't arrested. My opinion, I don't think the father knew. I think the father knew that his son was socially awkward. Now whether that, I mean, if he had, if Brian had the makings of a serial killer, then he would have had those three elements that happen from the time of childhood, which include starting fires, and hurting animals, and one other thing, and hurting animals or other people, like other kids or whatever. I can't remember the other thing. So when you see those kind of behaviors as a parent, you know something's off, right? Even if you haven't done any studies to know that those three elements are what are the only signs that profilers have of who may grow, the common thread in most serial killers. Even if you don't know that, you would still think, well, it's not right that he's torturing animals or setting fires or things like this. So they could have known that he had potential. If it's him, he's innocent until proven guilty, right? Did he, there's speculation on maybe the father, once they heard about the murders and knew that he was out there, thought he might have done it. I don't know. I don't think there's any clue, like that the father had any idea. I think it's still a possibility that the father didn't know anything, that the parents didn't know anything. And it was just as simple as, it's a long drive. I've driven cross country several times by myself. Okay. So I know what it's like. And for me, I love driving, but you're talking, we're already talking about the visual snow. So maybe he didn't want him to, maybe the father didn't want Brian, his son, driving that long of a distance with that kind of impairment. Most of the time it's going to be fine, but what if it acts up? He's got somebody that can take over the driving. Not to mention, if you want to drive, you can, without stopping, you can take turns sleeping. And while we're on that subject, let me just say that, and put it out there, that the route that he took going down to Highway 80 or Interstate 80 is absolutely and completely normal, right? It's like there's snow, on and off again, snow going on this time. I haven't looked at the exact weather forecast and what actually happened on the days he was driving, but I can tell you, I would not be driving through the middle of Montana, going over the Rocky Mountains through Montana and Wyoming. No. Even in the summer, that wouldn't be, unless you really are just wanting like a scenic drive, then maybe, just to check off the fact that you've gone through Montana and Wyoming and North Dakota, and you're checking them off a bucket list kind of thing. There is absolutely no reason that you would go through, from, cross over the Bitterroot Mountains in between Idaho and Montana, and then drive through and cross the Rocky Mountains. No, I don't buy it at all. Anybody with any sense at all would not go that route in winter. So it makes perfect sense. I've been to Idaho, I've been to Utah, and so it would make absolute sense to drive down to Salt Lake City, catch Interstate 80 straight across. Absolutely. And I've driven from Chicago, well, when you're in Chicago, you have to go south just a little bit to get onto Interstate 80. Then you go Dubuque, Iowa, Lincoln, Nebraska, Cheyenne, Wyoming, Salt Lake City, and then you go through the top of Nevada, through Reno, and then over the Sierras into the Bay Area in San Francisco. I've driven that. It's absolutely the route of choice in winter. Okay, so can we put that to rest? Anyway, continuing with the questions. Buddy the dog was next. Someone was asking about Buddy the dog. A lot of people in the comments at that point were like, R.I.P. Buddy and stuff like that. Of course, the police said very quickly that there was no connection. So I think, yes, a lot of people do wonder, did they just dismiss it too quickly? And could it have been whoever the killer was, whether it was Brian or somebody else? Could it have been the killer practicing on the dog? And apparently they were both right around 4 a.m. So I don't know, but that's like sad. And I've heard two different things. I've heard that it was skinned, and then I've also heard that it looked like it was a wild animal that had done it. But then somebody said no. I think there was one YouTuber that interviewed the woman who owned the dog, and they had said that it was skinned. So I don't know. What evidence do we have of what condition that dog was in to know if it was an animal, a wild animal that had attacked the dog or not? And what are the police basing their opinion on, that there's no connection? Are they just saying that because they just want to say that, or is there a reason why they're saying that? Because they haven't told us why they're saying it's not connected. Kind of reminds me of Brian Laundrie and Crystal and Kaylin. Oh no, it's definitely not him. Okay, well, why? Their phones pinged. They had already left the area at that time. And they were on their way to Salt Lake City on the day that they died. Okay, then great. But to just dismiss it so quickly and not say why, I don't know. It seems like law enforcement really, they've gone too far on the pendulum. Like maybe they used to give too much information. I don't know. And now they're just holding all information back. And that just leads to conspiracies. The more you withhold, it actually, as far as I remember, it used to be that they would hold back one piece of information, not everything. It's an ongoing investigation. It's an ongoing investigation. Yeah, there's, one thing that was a trophy, or one thing in the method that, the method of a killing or something like this, then only something that only the killer's going to know, right? But not every detail of the investigation has to be kept secret. For what? I can't see any legal reason. Can somebody please answer what, why they have to withhold so much information? Because it really fuels suspicions and people, um, gosh, what's the word I'm trying to think of when you make a guess of what happened. Um, it's not suspicion. It's I can't think of the word. Um, supposedly, like, uh, you're probably watching this video and then going, it's this word, it's this word. But anyway, when we make our guesses, we could eliminate a lot of irrelevant stuff if we're given information. People can only make opinions based on information. And if information's not given, then oh well. Okay, then Dylan came up on DripDrop's video asking about the friends coming over to clean, and his first comment was that, well, that's just rumor. There's nothing to say that's true, that anybody came over to clean out drugs or something like this, right? The police department, but he brought this up, which was interesting. The police department won't say who was at the house when they arrived. Like, was Ethan's brother? That I remember in the beginning, it's talked about that maybe he was called. Some of the frat boys had been called. There's a lot of people that say that they knew what had happened around 10 o'clock in the morning, and the police weren't called until almost 12 o'clock. I think it was 11 something. So how many people, hopefully, I would hope that law enforcement knows exactly every single person that was in that house. Then he went on to mention the 911 call, and he was very adamant that call should be released. Now, my opinion on the 911 call is, imagine the person is on the phone on the 911 call and says, my friend, there's my friend's lying in the doorway, and they're talking about, and they are describing, it's not just an unconscious person, but they're actually describing details of the crime scene in the 911 call. Well, then in that case, when I was just saying this whole, they go overboard with there's an ongoing investigation and not giving any information. But in that case, unless they like bleeped out things, and then everybody would get all upset about what was being bleeped out. So they just can't release the whole call at this time until there's a trial or something. I would hope that's the only reason that would be acceptable to me, that they would be withholding it. If there's some other reason they're withholding it, then maybe it's dirty, the reason why. But to just throw it out there, it's very possible that they have a reason not to release the 911 call if information was relayed that they do need to keep back. All right. Someone asked, did he try to do it before? As in, all those times that he had come by the house, did he just get cold feet? Was he like actually going to try and do it those nights? And for some reason, then someone was walking their dog or something, and might have seen him. So he just like, okay, I'm not going to do it on this night. And DripDrop said, no, he doesn't think that is the case. He thinks the other times he was there were scouting it out, and that he planned to do what he did that night for whatever reasons he wanted to do it on that night, and he carried out those plans. Whoever the killer was, right? The DoorDash was next. I don't remember exactly what the question was about the DoorDash, but the answer was the driver. They asked if Brian might have slipped in to the house while the DoorDash driver was there, and he said no, it can't be, because the driver was gone before Brian's car pinged as being there, right? And then someone was asking, like, if Dylan opened the door to look out, wouldn't he have heard the door? Like, if it's a squeaky door, wouldn't he have heard the door opening? And DripDrop proceeded to talk about other noises that would have been like in the house at that time. The dog whimpering, and he mentioned the furnace. He actually said that night what the temperature was. It was 20-something degrees, so that furnace would have been kicking on. And then he said also, not all doors squeak. Some are well oiled, and so, maybe someone sprayed WD-40 on that door recently, and it didn't make any noise. That's possible too. Then somebody asked about Greek members. And the person asking the question said something about them being called 5 hours before the police, before the police were called. And he just said that literally that's talking about Greek stuff, because they're so tight knit and everything. That's a dangerous subject. He doesn't want to touch it. And then he proceeded also to say that everything at this point, everything is just rumors. We don't have any facts regarding Greek members or anybody else who was there and at what time before the police arrived. However, if they were given names, let's say they arrive and there's 10 people, just picking a number. There's Dylan and Bethany and 8 other people, for example, and they get everybody's name and their phone number, and then they immediately check the phone pings to see what time they arrived at the house. If I was an investigator, that's what I would do. Did they arrive 5 hours before? Right? I mean, the police should have all of this information, and it should be part of their case, and who they're looking at and what they're looking at, whether Brian was the only person or not. That kind of goes back to the whole Brent thing. I was listening to someone earlier today that was talking about Brent, and they were talking about, they really felt that maybe somebody in the police department might be involved in some way, right? Like they weren't saying the whole police department, but they were saying like maybe one person in the police department might have been involved in what happened. And maybe Brian was the getaway driver. Maybe he was in there. Maybe he, It's so much we just don't know with the evidence. Oh, let's see. Someone was asking about the knife grip. If the knife grip has been used, if the knife has been used and the grip gets wet, very wet, wouldn't that be slippery? How would he hold on to it? How would he hold on to the knife? And DripDrop was just saying that, okay, the knife, first of all, the knife is made with a grip for that particular purpose. And he may have also been wearing gloves, which would have helped the grip as well. Someone asked about it being a 7 or 8 minutes time frame for the murders to have occurred. And so was that too short of a time to kill that many people, to kill 4 people? And he was like, no, this guy, whoever the killer was focused. He had his mission, went in there to do a job, got the job done, and left. He would not have been sidetracked at all, in DripDrop's opinion. So that's pretty much about it. He did mention at the very end about Brian was arrested on the 29th of December. It was something about, like, I think the posts, social media posts that are possibly him, because then there were no more posts after a certain date. I kind of zoned out or missed that part. And he was coming back talking about, well, the arrests were on the 29th and blah, blah, blah. Alrighty. So that's all my notes. I went through all my notes. Everybody's busy today, I guess. But Andy was up early. Andy was up at 6 a.m., but then didn't come back. So I guess I'll end the broadcast since nobody's here. And if you've stayed and watched this video, thank you. You know, like as a replay, if you found this information interesting, great, thank you. Give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you like. Normally we get quite a few people in here and we get to ramble about all kinds of different subjects. We never know, you know, we might start with one subject, but we never know where it's going to go rambling to. And it can be quite fun. But I guess tonight's not going to be one of those nights or days for you guys. So wherever you are, have a good one. And catch you on the next one. Bye.